It's okay. This is your moment. This is an incredible atmosphere, one that you generate everywhere you go now, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger.
People arrived at the box office expecting to buy tickets to a tennis match. Instead, they were told there weren't any left. Some walked across the grounds looking for another ticket window. Others checked their phones, hoping the website had made a mistake. It hadn't. The stadium was sold out. On the resale market, some seats were reportedly approaching $1,000, and the player responsible wasn't the world number one. She wasn't the defending US Open champion. She wasn't a multiple Grand Slam winner. She was Eala, a 20-year-old from the Philippines who had never won a Grand Slam and wasn't even ranked inside the world's top 10. So how did Eala become the hottest ticket in women's tennis? Before lifting one of the sport's biggest trophies, the answer starts in Washington, D.C. The Mubadala CTDC Open has never been one of the largest stops on the WTA calendar, the William H.G. Fitzgerald Tennis Center holds roughly 7,500 spectators, making it one of the tour's more intimate venues. A weekday session in Washington rarely becomes the center of the tennis world. This one did. Fans began arriving early, only to discover the same problem. Tickets had disappeared. Long lines formed outside the venue. As people searched for any remaining seats, others turned to resale websites, where prices climbed to levels normally reserved for Grand Slam finals. And farewell tours, the remarkable part wasn't simply that the stadium was full. It was why tournament chairman Mark Aryna later revealed what his own ticket department had been telling him throughout the week. According to Aryna, at least 80%, and perhaps even more, of all ticket requests were asking one question. When is Eala playing? Think about that for a moment. Not Naomi Osaka, not Venus Williams, not Frances Tiafoe, not Ben Shelton. One player was driving virtually every conversation around ticket sales, and she was ranked outside the top 10 at almost the exact same time. Something equally remarkable was happening a few hundred miles north. Aryna Sabalenka, the world number one, had already begun her campaign at the Canadian Open in Toronto. The highest-ranked player in women's tennis was competing at one tournament, yet the hottest ticket belonged to another for decades. Professional tennis has operated on a simple assumption. The higher your ranking, the bigger your audience. When the biggest tournaments reach number one, the crowds will follow. Washington quietly challenged that belief because while the rankings still placed Sabalenka at the top of the sport, demand was suddenly pointing somewhere else. A player ranked outside the top 10 was creating a level of attention that tournament organizers simply hadn't planned for. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't one loud section of Filipino supporters. It wasn't social media exaggeration. The people selling the tickets were saying it themselves. The numbers were saying it. The lines outside the stadium were saying it. That's why this story is bigger than one tournament in Washington. It's about the business of women's tennis unexpectedly discovering a different kind of superstar. One whose impact could no longer be measured by rankings alone, because Eala wasn't just winning matches anymore. She was changing what people were willing to pay just to watch one. The sellout in Washington didn't happen by accident. By the time fans were standing in ticket lines and watching resale prices climb, tournament organizers already knew something unusual was happening. In fact, they had seen it long before the first ball was struck. Washington chairman Mark Aryna later revealed that bringing Eala into the tournament wasn't simply another entry on the player list. His team had been watching her rise throughout the season. Seen the growing crowds in Melbourne. They had noticed what happened in Miami. They understood that wherever Alex appeared, a different audience seemed to appear with her. Washington became the first tournament where that audience overwhelmed the numbers. Then came the admission that caught the attention of the entire tennis world. According to Aryna, at least 80% of all ticket requests, and possibly far more, were asking about one player. When is Eala playing? He even suggested the real number was probably higher, virtually all. Those weren't estimates from fans on social media. They came from the tournament owner himself. That matters, because tournament organizers don't judge popularity through Instagram followers or viral clips, they judge it through ticket sales. And Washington's ticket office was delivering one unmistakable message. People weren't simply buying tickets to the DC Open. They were buying tickets to watch Eala. The resale market reinforced the same story. Local discussions across Washington began documenting how difficult tickets had become to find. Fans described searching multiple resale platforms, while prices continued climbing. Some seats reportedly approached four figures before Alex had even reached the final. Agan, That wasn't happening because of a Grand Slam final. It was happening during a WTA 500 event. Professional tennis simply doesn't see that very often. Former ATP professionals noticed it too. On the Nothing Major podcast, Sam Querrey raised a question that would have sounded almost impossible a few months earlier. Is Alex Eala the biggest draw in women's tennis right now? Steve Johnson's answer came without hesitation. Yes. Querrey pushed further. Bigger than Aryna Sabalenka? Yes. Bigger than Coco Gauff? Yes. For two former top professionals, this wasn't about rankings, it was about demands. They weren't comparing forehands or backhands. They were comparing who people were actually paying to watch. That's an important distinction. For decades, professional tennis has worked under a simple assumption. First comes the rankings, then comes the audience. Become world number one. And the crowds naturally follow. Alex Eala appears to be reversing that equation. The crowds arrived first. The demand exploded first. The rankings are only now beginning to catch up. That's what makes this story so unusual. Tournament organizers noticed it. Former players noticed it. The resale market noticed it. Even players inside the locker room have reportedly begun noticing that wherever Alex plays, the atmosphere changes. And there's a reason the crowds keep following her from city to city. It's bigger than one winning streak. It's bigger than one tournament. Every stop on the calendar brings together another Filipino community that rarely has the opportunity to support someone competing at the highest level of world tennis. Melbourne, Dubai, Washington, now Toronto. Different cities, the same flags, the same chants. The same question at the ticket office. When is Alex Eala playing? That support isn't replacing tennis, it's expanding it. Tournament organizers aren't simply seeing larger crowds, they're seeing new crowds, people who might never have attended a WTA event are suddenly buying tickets because Alex Eala is in the draw. That's exactly why Washington matters. Not because one stadium sold out, because it revealed something the business side of tennis may have underestimated for far too long. For years, tournaments decided who belonged on the biggest courts. Now the crowds were beginning to make that decision themselves. Washington may have been where the numbers became impossible to ignore, but the real test begins now. Because one sold-out session can be dismissed as a remarkable week, two might still be called momentum. Three becomes a pattern. That's why the next month could be one of the most important stretches of Alex Eala's career. Not only as a player, but as a draw. The tour now moves to Toronto, then Cincinnati, then New York, and the biggest stage in tennis, Arthur Ashe Stadium. At the US Open, each tournament asks the same question. Was Washington an exception? Or has women's tennis discovered its newest attraction? The answer won't be measured only by wins and losses. It will be measured by something tournaments quietly monitor every single day. Ticket demand. Every event builds its schedule around one objective. Fill the biggest stadium. Maximize television audiences. Docrepate session sponsors want their brands attached to. For decades, rankings have made those decisions relatively simple. The highest-ranked players receive the biggest courts, the primetime matches. The headline television slots, the largest marketing campaigns. That formula has worked for years. But Alex Eala is creating an unusual conversation. If she continues generating sellouts wherever she goes, how long before tournaments begin adjusting around that reality? Not because of rankings, because of demand. Imagine the situation facing tournament directors over the next few weeks. Do you schedule according to world rankings? Or according to the player thousands of people are specifically asking to watch? Those questions become even more significant at the US Open. Arthur Ashe Stadium holds more than 23,000 spectators, more than 3 times the capacity of Washington's center court. It's built for the biggest attractions in the sport. If Alex continues drawing the kind of attention Washington witnessed, conversations about court assignments may begin sounding very different. Primetime television, evening sessions, broadcast priorities, sponsor activations, marketing campaigns. These decisions have always followed star power. Now Alex Eala is giving tournaments another way to measure it. There is another side to this story as well. Pressure. Selling out a stadium creates expectations that rankings never can. Fans no longer arrive hoping to discover a promising young player. They arrive expecting another unforgettable performance. Every tournament expects another headline. Every stadium expects another electric atmosphere. Every opponent now walks onto the court knowing thousands of people have shown up hoping to watch Alex win. That changes the psychology of every match. It changes the atmosphere before the first serve. And it changes the standard Alex will be judged against moving forward. Which brings us back to where this story began. The headlines focused on expensive tickets, the resale prices, the sold-out signs, the long lines outside the stadium. But those weren't the real story. They were evidence that something larger may be happening inside women's tennis. For decades, rankings decided who the biggest stars in the sport were. Aryna isn't trying to change that through interviews, marketing campaigns, or carefully crafted publicity. She's changing it every time another tournament discovers there aren't enough seats left. Do you think Washington was the beginning of a lasting shift? Or was it a one-week phenomenon? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed this documentary, subscribe for more in-depth coverage as Aryna's journey continues through Toronto, Cincinnati, and the US Open.